Yo, welcome to the Soapboxx podcast, Soapboxx Nation Live. Here we are doing some new things in 2021. As promised, we are going to be using all avenues of communication, streaming services, mainly meaning social media, IG. We haven't been doing a lot on IG, but that's going to change in 2021. And so I guess first up, me and my man, my co-host, independent artist, co-host, background in communication, my man since, damn, Alan, when did we meet? 2007?
Yeah, 2007.
Over a decade. This dude, talent, host, all that good stuff. Right here, man, my man Alan York. What's good, man?
I feel good, man. I just woke up for a nap, so I'm feeling refreshed. How are you feeling?
Yo, I feel fantastic. I just found out that, I can, I feel good, man. I mean, health is good, everything. I'm on track, so.
What did you just find out? You said, what did you just find out? I'm trying to sneak out of there.
I just found out, right? I went to Chipotle, and I just found out that I can get, like, the little meat toppings for, like, 99 cents. So I got a Chipotle hookup. I was really excited about it. I was like, I want to start off, but yeah, I'm excited. Yeah,
it's a little meat toppings.
All right, so you know how you get like the steak. This is off topic from what we were really going to talk about. So you know how we get the steak, the chicken, the tofu, all that other stuff. So instead of ordering a whole bowl, which I'm doing a lot of portion control, you can ask for. You know how they say, "Do you want extra guac?" And they put it in that little tiny little cup.
Yeah.
You can ask for toppings in that cup, and so if you get 2 cups of that, you could go and make your salad and do what you got to do and just have the toppings. Cost me 90 cents. So that's a life hack right there. So you just tell them, I don't want a bowl. I want a side, and get yourself some queso.
Okay.
And do it up.
Like little meat condiments. Pause.
Yeah. Yeah. You get the barbacoa, you get the steak, you get the chicken, whatever. So you walk around like 4 little cups. It's like 90 cents.
That's dope. Shout out to you and the Fat Boy Life Hack.
Yeah, hey man, look, we trying to get fit over here and have a healthier lifestyle and healthier choices and alternatives. I will say this. I hope that after we get off of this IG, we are allowed to save and it goes directly, because I know I had that issue last time. So this is really trial by error. So
we're experimenting. We gonna throw it to the wall, see what sticks, man. We're gonna see what sticks.
Yes. Yo, we got a few things I want to talk about. As we said, Soapboxx Nation Live. Shout out to everybody who is following us on IG. People who are following us on our streaming services. Make sure you follow the Soapboxx podcast with 2X. Shout out to Jesse. Shout out to Giovanni, who are our female co-host. And yeah, man. Yo, you know what I just found out? Actually, since we're chopping it up, President Joe Biden, who's now been sworn in, President Joe Biden, he actually signed some legislation allowing transgender, I guess you would call it, I'll just say transgender because I'm not, a transgender person to be able to compete in women's athletics. So there's a lot of people right now that are really upset about that, because they're like, oh, this is the end of women's sports, because you're allowing someone who was, I guess the right term, someone who was born a male who has now transitioned into a transgender person who is now a female. If I don't get the correct terminology, I'm sure someone will correct me. But they're now allowed to, virtually, there's no discrimination when it comes to gender, when it comes to sports and athletics. I want to say college and high school or whatever. I believe that's the legislation, because Biden has done some executive orders in his first 2 days as president, and that's one of them. People are hot.
So let me ask you though, because I know that sometimes with the executive legislation that only applies to maybe certain types of sports or certain types of organization, do you know what and who that applies to, or is it?
I wish I could. Look, I wish that I could tell you that this is that I have all the information, which I don't. I actually just finished glancing at the story, so I was like, oh, this is. I was like, this is interesting. This is something that we definitely might need to talk about when we have our live broadcast. But it got me to think.
Okay.
If I could go back to high school and I was eligible for women's athletics, I would be the most dominant high school women's basketball player in the state. Just completely dominant.
I feel like I've seen you play basketball, and I feel like that wouldn't necessarily be.
You've never seen me play basketball, but you're making an inference, an uneducated inference, based upon my look, man. I was athletic in high school. At least I was strong.
Athleticism does not equal grace on the basketball court.
Yo, I would have averaged 14 rebounds per game.
14 rebounds, I can give you. That's about
it. You think I'm not a scorer? I'm not a scorer? What are you talking about?
Clear the board. Just clear the board.
Listen, my high school sweetheart used to be the captain of the basketball team, right? And I was telling her, I used to beat her regularly. Like that whole love and basketball. I had to watch that movie so many times. There was no winning on the court.
You think you absorbed her powers like Space Jam?
the Space Jam. I'm telling you, man. Look. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the Al Bundy story. That's like, yo, Kai has 4 touchdowns in one single game. That's those struggle stories. But imagine. But I think the lines are blurred. I don't know, because if they're doing away with not just the guidelines for women and men, or where they're trying to ingratiate a transgender person into athletics so they don't feel discriminated against. Mm-hmm. I guess, and I will do more research on this, right?
For sure.
But I'm assuming, and this is just my conjecture, I'm assuming that men who identify, I'll say that males who identify as men can still participate, since there's no gender discrimination. So technically, you go ahead, Alan could go out here and get a field hockey stick and have a ball.
Well, I mean, I think with things like these, I think it's probably a lot more nuanced, just because, once the science comes into play, I'm sure they'll mandate like the amount of hormones that you have to take, and there'll be some sort of leveling of
my body, my choice
of playing field before you do that. So I do think that, and shout out to the trans people. Trans people had a big week. I also know that he signed legislation that rolled back some prohibition in regards to them joining the army or being in the military. So shout out to Joe Biden for being inclusive in his executive order.
And you know what? You have to, and that's true, because you have to understand, like, if I'm eligible to go to the army, I should be able to play track and field with whoever the hell I want to play track and field with. Like,
everything's on the table. Everything's on the table. So you definitely have to, shout out to them. I mean, it just kind of makes sense. I mean, a lot of this
for those who are listening, whether it's on streaming services or watching us on IG, we'll do more research on that and get a more in-depth analysis on that story. Hey, man, you have anything you want to, chop it up?
No, I mean, well, what other things are you looking forward to?
Well, let me say this. What did you think? Okay, so Trump is gone, right? So 45 is no more. We now have 46. What was your thoughts on the pardons? Because Trump came out with 100+ pardons on his last day, and the pardons were. Some of the pardons that were people who were pardoned were Kwame Kilpatrick, who's actually a Florida A&M University alumni, who was a former mayor of, I believe, Detroit. Steve Bannon. You had Lil Wayne, Dwayne Carter, and you had Kodak Black. And then you also had some other, he pardoned some other folks who were actually affected by Joe Biden's 94 crime bill because of the mandatory minimum. So what did you think about Biden? I mean, not about Biden, about Donald Trump's pardons.
And then also the brother who funded Death Row Records, he's been in jail for the last 30 years or so.
Fact.
I mean, everything's for sale. Everything's for sale. I found out that Kodak and Lil Wayne have the same lawyer. So on his behalf, and they had someone lobbying for them, randomly, quote unquote, Kodak made a a donation to the Barstool Small Business Fund a couple of weeks ago. As we know, 3 months ago, Lil Wayne endorsed Trump for president. So everything's for sale. You know, so I'm not necessarily shocked by it. It's all about who you know. It's always been about who you know. So, you know, that's what it is. I mean, in regards to him letting people off because of the 3-strike laws or the mandatory minimums and things of that nature, you know, shout out to them. Like I said, fortunately, they was in a position to know people that were able to facilitate that for them. You know, I just remember. I'm not necessarily gonna applaud. I would say applaud a fish for swimming, only because I know that essentially these are business moves. Like I remember between you know, his 8 years, I understand that Obama was really big on pardons and clemencies. He pardoned and gave clemency to the most people out of everyone. And from my understanding, he literally had a team have people look into people's clemency and pardon requests strictly for low level drug offenses, non-violent drug offenses, and things of that nature. So, you know, I won't necessarily, you know, give a round of applause for Donald Trump for doing that, because these are things that presidents should do if they're using their power correctly. You know, for him, I just feel like it was a meal ticket. Everything was for sale. So, you know, Wayne is home, Kodak's home, a couple other people is home.
I think Lil Wayne was on was on Fox Sports today on Skip and Shannon. He wastes no time.
He was in a real tight turtleneck too.
I didn't get to see the whole thing, but I was like, is that Wayne? Popped up on my.
Yeah, his boys is playing this weekend. The Bucks and the Packers, man. Who do you have in that game, by the way?
Wait a minute. Lil Wayne was the Bucks and the Packers. Is who? Who's he a fan of? I thought he was New Orleans.
He's a fan of the Packers. He has been a fan of the Packers. I will say that for a while. His story is that growing up in New Orleans, they sucked. So nobody really liked the Saints. And so he was a big Brett Favre. Yeah, so he was a big Brett Favre fan. And he, you know, when the helm changed, he's still a big Aaron Rodgers fan. So, you know, he was on Fox News this morning telling Skip and Shannon how they're going to go and beat the Bucks. But who do you have in that game?
Man, look, man, I don't count against, as a Jets fan, I'm a New York Jets fan who grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. I've seen this story. You don't bet against number 12. You don't bet it. He's too close. He's too close to the Super Bowl for you to bet against him. So I believe it's going to be Mahomes. I think Mahomes is going to eke it out. And I think Brady goes to another Super Bowl and hosts a Super Bowl in Tampa, which has never happened ever before, where the home team has hosted the Super Bowl in their own stadium.
What they're saying, I saw something today that they are going to allow 22,000 people in the arena for the Super Bowl, and they said supposedly 7,500 are going to be PPP and essential workers, not PPP, essential workers. We're going to be getting free tickets. That's from the area, so that'll definitely be interesting.
I would hate look, let me not be negative. I was like, I hope they go there and everybody's safe and they have a good time. I would hate for them to go to the Super Bowl and, you know, the virus starts to spread and they were like, man, I was good at the hospital, but I just had to go to that Super Bowl and ruin shit.
Everything
I think it'd be good. I think if all protocols in a bit, but the Bucks have been having fans in their stadium throughout like half of the season, so I think they'll be all right.
I was gonna say there's with the NFL games, there's been protocols in place to where it's not like, you know, if you're coming with you're with that group of people, and then there is distance between yourself and then the next group of people, and then I believe you have to be 30 feet from the field or something like that. So they are having some restrictive measures in place. So hopefully that all works out. It's Florida anyway. Them people are gonna be outside.
True. Yo, speaking of out, I want to touch base on the pardons real quick. Yo, Joe Exotic, talk about disappointment. This dude was ready, had a limo, he had a hair appointment, he had his ducks in a row. And Joe Exotic did not get a pardon from Donald Trump. And my thoughts on it is, well, that's to me that's funny as hell because that just kind of goes back to the whole Joe Exotic thing. He will eventually get out, and when he does, he's going to be a millionaire because that's just how the way society works. Yeah. You know, that's the privilege the white people like. He's the white privilege that he's going to exude because he's going to be like he's a what do they call that? A pop culture icon now because of that documentary.
Overnight, and you know he had everything except for the money to pay for the pardon.
Yeah, he could have stole some of them tigers though.
You got, but no, the state got that. Those tigers are gone. That limo looked long enough to hold a couple tigers. I will tell you that.
He will eventually. I mean, Joe Biden's not going to pardon him. I couldn't see him doing that. But he will eventually get out. But you know what? Now that we're talking about it, President Obama didn't pardon that many people. He pardoned about 200, I believe 218. Excuse me if my figures are not correct. But the most pardons by any president, and I was shocked when I read this, is Franklin D. Roosevelt. He pardoned 2,819 people during his presidency.
For what?
No, he used his pardon power.
For what? Though? Like, what's the science? And I guess, pardon me, the Obama thing was the clemency. Would they go through the process? It was like 1,100.
No, I'm talking about the same type of power where they can have executive order and pardon people for their jail sentences. He used it. 2,819.
What's the theme? What was his theme though? Like, who are those people?
Oh, I don't know. It's probably this is Franklin D. Roosevelt. So it's probably I don't know.
Slavery?
I only have 2,819 Facebook friends. So yeah. I wouldn't even. But I guess he's passing them out. Yeah. Like Nino Brown, baby. He was just like
free turkey. Yeah, that's nuts. That's nuts. They was probably for sale too.
Yeah. What did you think of I do want to, before we touch on that, I want to talk about the inauguration. Get your quick thoughts on the inauguration. I know people were kind of like, "Yo, where's Beyonce? There's J-Lo," but we got J-Lo, and J-Lo's.
That's the answer. Where's Beyonce?
J-Lo remixed it with the "Let's Get Loud," and I don't know. Like, I wish. During our show, we talked offline about this, that we can get the perspective from our female co-host. But I don't know, like the Kamala Harris, I know how I felt when Obama took office, when he was the president in 2008. It was like one of those like break glass ceiling, shattering, like, yo, I could actually do this. And it gave me that affirmation that, yo, I can actually have a career in politics, be back in student government. But Kamala, I think from 2008 to 2021, I don't know if it's the times that have changed, but like it didn't hit me that she's like the VP because I'm so used to seeing black women in positions of power now that it didn't really hit the same as like, yo, this is the first black president. But it was like, oh, Kamala's a VP. I bet she's still gonna be in the Senate. Like it didn't hit me. I don't know. Did it land for you a little differently?
It probably didn't for me. I know for my mother it did. She was actually kind of emotional about it, which I thought was dope. And I guess just kind of like you said, just black women being in position of power is not something that's foreign to me. But also, she's going right back to the same building she's been going to for the last however many years, right? So it's just like
grand opening, grand closing.
So essentially, it's kind of like, she just moved into a different office. So I guess that's probably why it didn't necessarily, it's not like she came from obscurity and into the ranks of the White House where we necessarily saw the same with Obama's live ascension. With her, it's like we already know, even if she wasn't going to be in VP, she was going to be in Washington every single day handling business. So the fact that she is VP is amazing. It's awesome. She's definitely going to be able to do some new and great things in her position. But yeah, I guess the shock factor wasn't necessarily there, just because I knew that VP or not, she was going to get the work in that same place, during those same times. But it's awesome that she has an elevated position. But I understand what you're saying, and I agree for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, the ticket of itself, the Biden-Harris ticket, really didn't it didn't hit me like it was something that was, you know, this grand thing. It was almost like an obligation. Like people knew Trump had to go, but we also wanted some tangibles from the Biden administration for, as far as black folks, for our vote, and not just giving Democrats our vote for nothing. So we shall see. I mean, we'll see. I will say this: Democrats no longer have any excuses, and this is exactly where we want them to be. You have control of the House, you have control the majority in the Senate, and you have the executive branch with President Joe Biden. So as far as an agenda is concerned, besides all the filibustering that's about to take place in the next 4 years to make sure that bills fail or they're not heard, you better be bold and make sure that you understand where your bread is buttered. At least that's why I think, because every other interest group is getting stuff, especially with the initial executive orders that Biden proposed. Everybody's getting something, from Native Americans to LGBTQ to Latinos to, but as far as African Americans, we're not getting any direct action yet. So I hate to be the wait and see, but you would think that would have been the first on his priority list.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's always easy to reinstate or roll back legislation, especially within the first 100 days. Unfortunately for us, directly for African Americans, we didn't have anything on the table to roll back or to reinstate. So, I definitely understand that as far as we should be getting something. But I think we're in a unique position that we kind of have to start from scratch as far as legislature to be built specifically for us and by us, as opposed to those other things when you're talking about the LGBT community, you're talking about the immigrants. Those are groups that already have legislation that's been in limbo and kind of been playing ping pong depending on what party has the power.
But we got legislation. The legislation is we got to get rid of qualified immunity, which allows these officers to say, to not be punished for racially targeting African Americans. And I believe whether you're in local government, county, your first obligation is public safety. You want to make sure you're protecting your constituents. Well, if I know that there was a block of constituents that came out and voted for me in record numbers, and they are also being racially and they're being disproportionately targeted by law enforcement officers, I would make sure that I would take care of them first as far as their public safety. It's a public safety issue. I did read something in Maryland. And it's so funny because now, since the Capitol situation happened, there's so many people in the media that's like, oh my goodness, we did an investigation. Just finding out that there's so many ex-military, former cops that were all involved with the insurrection. It's just like, and everybody's pretending, the fake outrage. Oh, I can't believe these officers were involved in such a heinous, and black folks are just sitting there like,
it's funny because we were talking about that last episode. We were saying how it just seems that it's a no-brainer that a lot of people who were militarized and broke into the Capitol definitely fit the description of former servicemen. And for that coming out a couple of days after we talked about that, it was just an affirmation. I mean, just like anything else, you can be radicalized, and people, and with the U.S., they feel like we are exempt from having terrorists and having radicalized terrorists. But if you look at our history, like, we're some of the first people who were doing terrorism in the name of religion, right? Like that's the inception of our country. And people act like it just started in September of 2001. But no, I mean, it's been happening. It's still happening. And, it is very interesting that people are kind of waking up now and seeing that this stuff is in our backyard. I think Charlemagne calls it white vanilla ISIS. That we have right here. So it's good that people are kind of like opening their eyes to it.
Yeah, what I found interesting is, and you made a good point about the racism that's been here. I found interesting that people, like, there's this narrative that the racial conversation started with Obama, and then racism was exploited by Trump, and then all of a sudden Biden is the Biden Harris administration. So, oh my goodness, now it's back to that whole post racial era that they like to tout out. But I wanted to ask you, because we just this past week was the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King, right? Dr. Martin Luther King Day, and I did some thinking because we had that. There was a Black Lives Matter video with this girl with her ashy booty twerking around monuments and stuff. I was just like, as offended as I was like, there's too much shea butter and cocoa butter in this world for you to. I was like, yo, you decided to record like that? Like, it wasn't a busting open challenge, but at least you y'all could have put a filter on the video. But anyway.
Yeah, I didn't see the full video. She was the ankles wasn't moisturized.
Yo, it was just like, yo, you just didn't care. Like, if you twerking for America and you represent a place, at least put some cocoa butter or some Vaseline or something. It was just very ashy. I didn't like their justification for posting the video, and they talked about women's. It was black women's liberation, and twerking was a way to release the stress from slavery and black women being over sexualized. And everybody was like, it's a fail. Black women, everybody was like, yo, no, we're not buying that bullshit. And for you to post it on MLK Day, like, there's a time and a place for shit, and that just wasn't the time for it. But besides them and their fumbling of that and their fail, because I believe we just live in an era of, people just want massive attention for no reason. But I wanted to ask you about Dr. King, because we see all the pageantry for him every year, and then you see all the white supremacists or people who are racist come out with these Dr. King quotes. Do you believe that we will ever achieve his dream? I thought about that. Like you will not be judged by the content of your skin, but the pigmentation of your skin. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. Yeah. But the content of your character. Do you believe now in 2021 that King's dream is still achievable?
I think to put this broadly, I think the human experience is ever evolving. I think that we will eventually get to a place where that becomes true. I don't know when that's going to be. I can't tell you it's going to be in the next 20 years, the next 30 years, but I know things have to keep going in a direction, and it's either going to go forward or it's going to go backward. But even if you go backward enough, you end up doing some sort of 180. So I do think it's going to happen one day. When it's going to happen, I'm not sure. Just being realistic. I do think that some things that, and just kind of speaking with older people and just being in the present and I try not to lose still facing some of the fundamental issues that are quick to kind of tell you that, listen, shit is fucked up. Now it's been fucked up, but it's less fucked up. And we have to acknowledge the progress that has been made since the 30s, since the 60s, since the 80s to now. I mean, some things are worse, of course, but a lot of things are better. And I think we would be a little bit disingenuous to think that things are 100% the same way they were in 1960. A lot of things are the same, but I do think we're a lot closer from that point than we were then. And 50 years is not a long time, especially just it is not even a drop in a bucket when it comes to just human evolution. So I do think that a lot of strides have been made between then and now. I do think that one day the dream will be realized. When? I'm not necessarily sure. I also have a question about Dr. King for you, but I'm gonna let you answer your question first.
Go ahead.
Now I'm gonna go. I want you to answer your question first. What do you think?
Oh, do I think that the dream is achievable? Only if we replace this, white supremacy with a system of justice. I mean, I think, Joe Biden, President Biden actually mentioned something about you can't heal unless you remember. And I'm like, and I believe that, hey, yeah, we can remember all we want, but people need to be compensated for the things that have happened in the past, right? When we're still seeing voter suppression at, in places like in Pennsylvania, we're still seeing people being disenfranchised. Now we have the online voting, mail-in ballot voting, but people are still being disenfranchised. People are still, integration. We got to start thinking about, did integration actually work out for African Americans? Right? We were the closest that we've ever been as a community back in the 60s, because that's really all we had was each other. Right? Once we integrated and we were able to spend our money with white-owned businesses, that's the really only thing that's really integrated was our economics. Right?
We lost.
So yeah, we lost our leverage. And so when I think about King's dream, about being able to, be judged by the content of our character and not the skin, that would mean the end of America as we know it. Because it was built on that foundation. And I think that's the dichotomy between when people talk about reform and straight revolution. We got to tear it down and rebuild it. It's like, how can you rebuild, how can you reform something that was corrupt in the beginning, right? America's foundation is taking people from their homeland and using them as property in order to build this land, and then we call it freedom, and then we want to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and stand for the national anthem. And we're seeing in America now how there are two Americas, right? So we're seeing that when we face injustice in our communities, we can't go to no capitals and occupy it and with guns and stuff like that. No, they'll shoot us down. So I will have to say, in my lifetime, I don't believe so. But we're still fighting so that in my nephews and my kids' lifetime, it may be more achievable. But right now, it's almost like when you're in the thick of the fight, you really can't focus on, seeing the end goal. Rather than what's to come. But it is important, right, to look behind you and remember, okay, how far did we come? Okay, and remember those mistakes or those wrong turns before you move forward and go somewhere else.
For sure.
So yeah. Yo, did you catch that? I don't know if you do. Do you watch those what is it, Ashanti?
Last night.
Yeah, I didn't cop it either. Nobody asked for the Keisha Cole Ashanti verses. I don't know why they kept rescheduling it. Apparently they were late. I didn't ask for it.
A lot of people asked for the Keisha Cole Ashanti verses. And
really?
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of people were excited about it. I mean, anytime you postpone things a couple of times, it kind of loses its steam. But the timeline was filled with reaction from it. So I mean, there's definitely still an audience for both of those lovely queens. So shout out to them.
Yeah, man, no doubt. But listen, yo, as you can see, this is something new that we have. It's more intimate when it comes to our conversations. We're going to be on here talking with everybody. Maybe we'll do some pop-ups. Maybe we'll have Alan on here, Jesse, Giovanni, and they'll talk with more folks from Soapboxx Nation. We want to engage with you. So for those who watch us on IG Live, thank you. And we're going to post this on YouTube. Hopefully we have no technical issues and it saves so we can post it on YouTube. But yo, man, I appreciate you taking the time out, as always, to chop it up with me, man. You have anything to say? We don't have a moral of the story, but I guess you can wrap it up.
I mean, I don't have nothing crazy to say. I'm about to make some tea light some candles actually, and watch the
You
Magic
got
game.
you got a shorty coming through?
No, I have to work tonight, so I'm setting the ambiance. There will be
Oh,
no,
okay. Got you.
there
Got
will
you.
be
Got you.
no,
Got you.
you know, there will be no. The only company is me, myself, and my two other personalities tonight. So I'm getting the mood right. You know what I'm saying. What about
Yeah.
what you got going on tonight?
I am probably, man, I sound so lame. I'm like, I may read tonight and I may drink some wine. Man, when you're over 30, the dating scene and like it's not what it used, it's just not what it used to be, man.
We're not
Like
gonna get it.
you have conversations, but you know, to go
What are you
out.
What are you reading right now? I just finished my book today, actually.
All right. So I got a couple that I'm reading. Well, these are right here. I got rules. Here's one. Rules for
Okay.
revolutionaries, how to big organizers can change everything. And
Okay.
then
Okay.
I think I want to start this. I got this joint, Eric Dyson's White Fragility.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
That's up.
So
That's up.
so yeah. So anything political, organizing, and you know, just getting ready for championship Sunday.
Have you
And run.
I just finished this book today on Denmark Vesey. Have you read it?
No, I haven't.
It's a
What's
good
it
book.
about?
It's a good book. He was planning the biggest U.S. slave revolt
Slave Revolt. Yeah.
in the 1820s. He was probably a week or so from pulling it off, but you know,
Haitian, right?
I'm sorry.
He's Haitian. He's a Haitian
No,
Haitian guy.
no,
He's not.
he's not
French.
Haitian. He was in contact with some people in Haiti though, and he was definitely, and they were willing to assist him with some of the uprising. He's from the Caribbean.
Mm.
I actually believe he may have been African. But
Okay.
yeah, it was in South Carolina. It's a really dope story. And you know, part of my language, but you know, it literally, when I say it was house niggas that kind of foiled the plot.
Yeah. What there's a lot of you look for those who don't like, oh, I don't like to read or anything. When you read books and you start reading how some of the niggas used to act, like how they used to act back in the day, you're
Yeah,
like, these niggas act like that now. Yo,
yeah,
it's crazy. You can learn. That goes back to learning
listen.
from your past, so you don't repeat the mistakes of today.
And he even had the kind of know-all to where he didn't even really like recruiting the black bourgeoisie for his revolt. Like this was literally a method of his. Like, no, they're too comfortable over there. They're gonna fuck it up. And so it was just amazing to kind of read that he had that mentality back then, because looking at our movement now, it's like, nah, they're too comfortable. They're gonna
Yeah.
fuck it up. But he had that wherewithal back then. But yeah, definitely a dope book. I definitely just got finished reading today, so I'm on a quest for my next literature victim. So, but yeah,
Word. Yo, you know what I'm
thank you for
interested
having
in
me.
seeing?
Wow.
I'm interested in seeing the new movie with Daniel Okoye with about Fred Hampton that's
Yeah,
coming out HBO Max in February for Black History Month, and the new Denzel movie that's coming out in like 2 weeks. I
yeah.
think that movie's gonna be fire too.
Listen, I'm waiting for that week so I can like use a 7-day trial on HBO Max. You know what I'm saying? So I'm double dutching when that fire comes out. Even though I hear HBO Max is worth every single penny. People keep telling me that.
Yes, as someone who knows someone who has their account information. Yo, I've been watching it. Yo, you know what I watched the most on HBO Max? Remember the old animated Batman cartoon on
Yes.
Fox? All that joint is on
That's
there.
on there? That's crazy.
That's what I've been watching. I'm like, yo, this is one of my favorite cartoons back in the day. But yo, so that's the weekend. We will see y'all next week. Soapboxx Podcast. We will have a full episode. Actually, we're gonna have a special episode during the week, probably before Thursday, to commemorate the 1 year. I guess the 1 year tragedy. I guess it was the anniversary of
Transition.
Kobe Bryant and Gianna and those who passed away in the plane crash. I was gonna do that by myself. I don't know, because I was like, yo, I didn't have the heart to do it last year. But I mean, it'll be interesting to get everybody's perspective. So maybe we can do it IG and then get everybody else's perspective. But yo, for TJ, Alan York, yo, have a great weekend, my brother. Hopefully this saves, and we will connect with y'all some more. Soapboxx Nation. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Soapboxx Podcast with 2X. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as always, thank you and continue to support us. All right? Stay safe. Your voice is your power, so make sure you speak.
Peace, y'all.
Peace.